So we are going to move on then to 5.3, which is looking at paying down debt. So the last standard was establishing good credit, right? The second factor in that credit score was how much debt you have and your credit utilization. We said we want to try to keep that at 25% or lower. So today we're going to look at, well, what happens if we do have several loans and we have high balances? How can we work? What kind of strategies can we take to pay those down? All right. Looking at paying down debt, okay, we're going to talk about two basic strategies that we can use to kind of tackle our debt and reduce those payments. All right. So in general, okay, what we need to do when we're trying to create a strategy to pay down our debt, okay, is to prioritize our debts by whatever payoff method we're going to use. And I'll talk about the two different payoff methods here in a moment. But regardless of which method we choose, okay, we're going to try to prioritize our debts and order them from the debt we most want to focus on down to the debt that we'll focus on last. All right, so we're going to prioritize our debts based on whatever method we end up choosing. All right, and then I'm going to make my minimum payments on each loan, right? We talked about how your payment history is the number one factor in influencing your credit score. So we want to make sure that we're at least paying our minimum on every one of our loans, okay, on time. Okay, but then any extra money that we've put into our budget for paying down our debt, all of that extra money is going to go toward whatever debt we put on top. Okay, whatever we prioritize as our number one loan to pay off, we're going to put all extra money going toward that loan. And we're going to do this month after month after month after month until that first loan, whatever loan we have on top, is paid off and is down to zero. Okay, so whether that is a credit card or whether that is a car loan or whether that is a personal loan, right? Whatever it is, we're going to make our minimal payments on all of our loans. And then anything extra that we've put in our budget toward debt repayment is going to go toward that top loan month after month until it's paid off. All right. And then that gets eliminated, right? So then the next month, I'm going to continue to make my minimum payments on each loan. But now everything that was going toward that top loan, because its balance is now zero, everything I was putting toward that first loan, I can now put toward my second loan. Okay. So as soon as that first loan is paid off, I'm going to continue the process, but now my extra payments, my extra amount that's in my budget is going to go toward the new highest prioritized loan. Okay, and I'll do this month after month after month after month until it gets down to zero and then continue on. Right? If I only have 3 loans now, after the first 2 are paid off, all of my payments can go toward that third one. If I have 5, 6, 7 loans, right, I would continue this process. So the basic framework there is the same. Right? Where it will be different is how we prioritize these loans. And there's 2 kind of basic strategies, 2 different mindsets that you could take to kind of go about this. All right. So the first method is called the snowball method. Okay. So if you imagine yourself at the top of a hill, okay, it's snowy, you build a little snowball. All right. You put it down and you start rolling it down the hill. Right? What happens? Well, it starts out small, but as it's going down the hill, right, snow starts to pack onto it, stick to it. The snowball starts to grow and start to gain speed and momentum. All right. Well, that's the same kind of process that we will use here. We're going to start out small, try to get some quick little victories, and then build up to large once we start having some speed and momentum. All right. So when we're using the snowball method, we're going to prioritize our loans from the lowest balance first to the highest. All right, by ordering it based on our balance, okay, and putting the smallest balance on top, we're going to be able to pay off that first loan, maybe that second loan pretty quick. All right, and so as we're paying off individual loans, okay, we get this motivational feeling. We get these quick wins. If I can pay off an entire loan in 3 months or 4 months, that's going to feel really good. If I go from 5 loans down to 4 loans really quickly, and then 4 loans down to 3 loans. Okay, so it's pretty easy to see your progress when you're paying off individual loans. What this doesn't do, though, is take into account your overall total debt or the interest rate on those loans. Okay, so overall, because we're ignoring the interest rates, we may be keeping the more expensive loans open longer because how expensive your loan is based on your interest rate. So we may be keeping the higher interest rate loans open longer using this method. So it could potentially take us a little bit longer to pay off, and we will pay slightly more in interest over the lifetime of our debt repayment. Okay. So there's a trade-off there, right? If we're kind of emotional spenders, if we need to see those victories of going from 6 loans down to 5 loans relatively quickly, and then 5 down to 4 relatively quickly, right? If we need to see that progress, okay, the slightly longer to pay off, the slightly more interest that we pay might be a pretty good trade-off for us. All right, so that's the snowball method. The avalanche method is another way of organizing our debts. So the avalanche method now starts really big at the top and tries to take down, right, any small thing at the bottom of the mountain. So here we're going to start big, and we're going to start with our expensive loans, or the loans with the highest interest rate at the top. All right, so the loans with the highest interest rate is going to get the majority of our payoffs, okay, each and every month until that loan is paid off. So by doing this, right, by taking this approach, we're going to pay off the overall debt a little bit sooner, and we're going to save money overall on the interest that we pay because we're eliminating those expensive loans first. All right, now the disadvantage to this is if the loan with a high interest rate has a really large balance, it's going to take a long time to pay that off. Okay, so if I have 6 loans, all 6 loans might stay open for a longer period of time. So it may take a little bit longer to pay off that initial loan or that second loan. All right. So if you're really mathematical, analytical, if you're numbers based, this approach is going to work really well for you because you can see the big picture and you understand that you're going from 20,000 in total debt down to 19, down to 18, and so on. Okay, and you're making progress that way, even though all of your debts may stay open longer. Okay, if you're not really numbers based, if you're more emotional based, right, the snowball might make sense because it's much easier to grasp your progress going from 6 loans to 5 to 4 relatively quickly, rather than going from 20,000 that you owe to 19,200 to 18,700. Right? If you do that and a year later you still have all of your loans open, even though you're making progress, right? It may not feel like it because you look and you say, man, I've been doing this. I've been trying to repay my debt. All of these loans are still open. I'm never going to accomplish it, right? And so this way it may be harder to stay motivated because for some people, it's harder to grasp the progress that you're making, okay? So neither approach is necessarily right or wrong or better than the other. The right approach is the approach that's going to work for you and keep you motivated and following the plan. All right. And you don't necessarily need to always stick with one. For example, when I graduated college, when I was living on my own for the first time, I kind of overextended myself with credit. As I was living on my own for the first time, I got my own apartment, right? I had to furnish it with, a bed and a couch and TV and all of these things that together cost well more than I could afford at any one time, right? So I started using credit to pay for those things. I also had student loans to pay off. And so after a couple of years, I obviously knew that I need to get this under control, and I want to make a concerted effort to pay this down, right? So most months I would follow the avalanche, right? My priority most months was paying down that high interest loan. But occasionally, okay, one of the loans that was in the middle of that order, right, would get to be such a low balance that I knew that I could pay it off in one individual month or 2 months maybe. And so momentarily for 1 month or 2 months, I might bump that one up to the top of my list. So I could take advantage of saving interest for the most part most months, but it also feels really good when you zero out a loan. And so if one of the loans balance got to be the point where I might be able to pay it off within the next month or two, I might temporarily move that to the top of my list. So you don't necessarily, once you say, I want to do this one, I want to do that one, stick with it for however long it takes to pay off loans, right? You can adjust your strategy month to month to make sure that you're staying motivated and that you're feeling like you're making success. All right. So we've got those two methods, right? But the overall structure remains the same. Prioritize our loans, make your minimum payment each month, and then anything extra is going toward whatever loan you've prioritized at the top. All right. So snowball, if we were to order these, right, from our most important loan to our least important loan, or our top priority to our lowest priority, snowball, we're ordering top to bottom based on balance, from smallest balance to the highest balance. Okay? By using the avalanche method, we would order these from top to bottom, top priority to lowest priority, based on highest interest rate down to our lowest interest rate. If you're so inclined, if you have a little bit of extra time, if you want to, I mean, there's a couple of more videos that are posted on here that are kind of funny. Okay, you can go in and watch those at some point if you would like. But I'm going to jump ahead and I'm going to walk you through the assignment for today. Okay, on the 5.3 page, there's also a video here that, again, just summarizes avalanche and snowball methods. And it may be worth it to watch just as a little bit of review or hear somebody else talk about the same principles. So that's posted for you, but we're going to move on to the 5.3 mountains of debt. When you open this worksheet up, all right, you'll notice that there is a table at the top that has an average household, an average breakdown of 5 different types of debt. So I've got a credit card with a balance of 6501, a retail store card with a balance of 2110, a private student loan for 25,745, auto loan for 23,792, and a home equity line of credit or HELOC for 42,139. We've got various interest rates and then the minimum monthly payments here. What we're going to do is we're going to look at how paying it off with the avalanche method versus paying it off with the snowball method differs in terms of how long it takes to pay off all these debts and how much you end up paying in interest. All right. So it says, assume you're an average American holding the debt listed below. You've budgeted $1,400 each month to debt repayment. You're on a zero-based budget and your current income, you won't be adding to any of these balances. Okay. So we're not adding to these. We're just paying them down. So there's a link here to a website called What's the Cost. When you open this up, the first thing that you'll want to do is on the right-hand side in this currency box, the individual that had created this website, it originated in Britain, and so it defaults to British pounds as the currency. There's other currencies as well. Make sure that you're clicking on the United States flag to put this in US dollars. All right. And then what you'll do is you'll set the number of debt. Okay. In this case, we've got 5. And here you'll list the amount that we've budgeted toward paying off that debt is $1,400. So I'm going to enter $1,400. Now it gives us the option of, do we want to prioritize our debts based on the interest order or balance order? All right. Interest order is based on the highest interest rate first. That's what we refer to as the avalanche method. The balance order places the lowest balance first to pay off the individual loans quicker. That's what we refer to as snowball. So it says that we're going to start out using the interest order or avalanche method and $1,400 toward our debt. All right. Then we're going to list each of those 5 loans that we have. So a credit card for 6501. Okay. Non-flexible simply means that the loan can't be paid off early. So in other words, you can't pay more than the minimum due each month. So if I were to look at this home equity line of credit, for example, it's got $429 minimum due each month. If that were a non-flexible loan, it means I couldn't pay more than that. Do not check that, okay? We are going to be paying our loans off first. We're going to be putting more toward our loans than just the minimum. So do not check that. The interest rate for the credit card was 16.9. So I put that in APR. Introductory rate would be sometimes when you open up a new account, as an incentive, the company will give you a reduced interest rate, sometimes a 0% interest rate for 3 months or 6 months or whatever, to entice you to open up that card or to switch using their bank, whatever the case is. And then after that introductory time period, it reverts to the standard interest rate. We're going to ignore that. We're going to assume that any kind of introductory rate has already expired. So you can leave that blank or just put zeros in there. And then for the credit card, remember, it's not so much that it's got a fixed amount that's due every month. It's usually based on the balance. So the minimum is 3% of that balance. The second card was a retail store card, okay, that owed 2110 at 26.9% interest rate. Again, 3% of the balance due each month. Then we had student loan at 25,575, 8.5%. Now we've got a fixed amount that's due each month, $340. I'm going to put that in the dollar amount versus the percentage of balance. I've got an auto loan for $23,792 at 7.1% and $375 minimum payment. And then the last one, that line of credit of $42,139 at 8.6%. and $429 due each month. Okay. Then once I enter all 5 of those loans and I've established which priority I'm putting the loans in, whether it's avalanche and interest or balance and snowball, paying $1,400. Okay, I hit that calculate, and then down below it'll give me a summary of what this looks like. So it says it will take me 101 months to pay off these debts, and I'll pay $40,554 in interest. Now, as I scroll down, I can see that they've been placed retail store card first at the top because it had the highest interest rate. Then credit card was next, then the line of credit, student loan, and finally that auto loan. Now you can see that every month it'll break down how much is going toward that loan. And you'll notice that these bolded numbers, okay, I'm paying more than the minimum that's due that month. So you can see each month I'm paying off a little bit more to this because I'm freeing up some extra money that can go toward that top loan as these other loans are being paid off. So every month I'm making that home equity line of credit of $429 a month. Every month I'm paying off that student loan of $340 a month, and so on. And then my credit card payment is going down slightly each month because I'm paying 3% of the balance. And every month 3% is a little bit less than the previous month. And so this first card, I'm paying more than the minimum, and you can see that that's bolded, until I get down to almost a year and a half from now, or actually 2.5 years from now, when I finally pay off that first card and I can put extra toward that second loan now. And now this one's paid off, and now this is my top priority. So all my extra dollars are going toward it until it's paid off a year and a half later. And now I'm working on paying off that home equity line of credit. Okay. And then notice that the car loan over here never made its way to the top. I paid that off paying just the minimum each month. All right. It never became the top priority. I never paid more than the minimum due. And then the last loan was only open by itself for 2 months at the end. So I can go through and I can see the breakdown of how that money would be divided up over those 5 loans. All right. Then so I've got some question to answer based on that. Then it says, imagine that instead of putting $1,400 toward your loan, you were able to move your budget around and you put $2,200 toward paying off your loan. So I'm going to change this from $1,400 to $2,200, recalculate it. Okay. And I'm going to see what impact that has. Putting more toward it means I'm going to pay off my debt sooner. I'm going to pay less in interest. And so I can compare the 101 months to the whatever it's going to be. It's going to end up at like 53, 54 months. Scroll down and see 55 months. So instead of 101 months, I paid it off in 55 months. Instead of 40,000 in interest, I pay less than 20,000 in interest, and so on. And then again, I can see how that breaks down. All right. Then when I get to page 2, I'm going to do the same thing, except now I'm going to switch it up back to my 1,400, and I'm going to do the snowball or the balance order. So I'm going to switch that up to balance, 1,400, come down and calculate, and then answer some questions. Then again, see what happens if I could increase my repayment amount each month to 2,200. All right. So go through that, finish up those calculations, work on this worksheet, get that turned in. All right. And hopefully you're able to draw some conclusions off of those repayment methods.